With less than 1 month before BT12 across time, testing has begun for preliminary outlines and structures for the upcoming meta. And what better way to start off with a fan favorite of Wargreymon. Although Wargreymon has been slapped on the wrist with a restriction of BT11 Greymon X, the deck functionally is still very powerful, even in testing. As always, if you enjoy these types of videos, do consider liking this video, subscribing to the channel, and hitting that notification bell for more future content. This deck runs 5 level 2s, 14 level 3s, 11 level 4s, 8 level 5s, 6 level 6s, 2 level 7s, 3 option cards, and 6 Tamers. For level 2s, this deck runs 3 BT5 Coromon and 2 BT9 Coromon. An odd split for some, but this is the ratio that worked best for me so far. With the addition of mulligans, you ultimately become the judge of what is or what isn't a good hand. BT5 Coromon assists with finding combo pieces, digging deeper as you attack with your level 4 or higher Greymon Digimon. But BT9 Coromon can provide you that unexpected DP buff that you may need in a pinch. Ultimately, if you feel you draw fine, you can do away with BT5 Coromon. But if you need more draw power, this Coromon and potentially Greymon might be used. For level 3s, this deck runs strictly Agumons. 4 BT12 because this Digimon has a lot of utility. While you could digivolve it in the raise for 1 from a black level 2 Digimon, its cost is 0 from a Coromon. In addition, it provides a plus 1000 DP buff to your Digimon on all turns if it has Greymon or Omnimon in its name. On play, reveal the top 4 cards of your deck, add 1 Digimon with Greymon or Omnimon, and 1 Tamer with Kamiya in its name. This is one of the first Agumons that adds a specific Tamer and gives you the option to pick between a Greymon or Omnimon to add. Versatile? Very much so. Of course, this deck uses 2 BT5 Agumons because this one is a Greymon and Omnimon edition, while Agumon X can add a Greymon or Omnimon and the x-antibody. The only other Agumons I currently use are the promo Agumons, which give you a static plus 2000 DP buff if your Digimon has Greymon in its name. If shelling out the money for these Digimon isn't possible for you right now, there is a nifty substitute of Starter Deck 7, Agumon. This Agumon has been reprinted a few times, and because of this, it does provide you a plus 2000 DP buff when you attack a player. Keep in mind that the raid mechanic lets you attack a player, then switch attack targets, meaning you can achieve the plus 2000 DP buff regardless. It just requires your opponent to have an unsuspended Digimon in play. No other suggestions for the time being because this variant runs Omnimons that I don't want to risk bottom decking them with the BT8 variant. Level 4 wise, Greymons are this deck's biggest strength. Of course, you run the 1 copy of BT11 Greymon X for the super cheap Digi-evolution from Greymon to BT12 Meta Greymon. Remember, because this Greymon reduces the cost by 1 for each color of a Greymon Digimon, this makes Metal Greymon effectively 1 memory. BT12 Greymon is also a 4 of in case you happen to find a Kamiya that you want to play for free when digivolving. Remember, this Greymon also has a special Digi-evolution cost from Agumon for 2. While I do argue that Starter Deck Greymon is an MVP in some ways, keep in mind that there are many ways to gain extra security checks in this deck. Because of that, I only run 3 copies of this card. And of course, to fill in the missing space for x-antibody, this deck utilizes Greymon X from BT9 to round out your level 4s. For level 5s, I went back to a few oldie but goodie kind of cards. The first being Metal Greymon X. While yes, this Digimon does not have an inheritable, climbing off of a BT12 Metal Greymon gives this Digimon piercing and an extra security check. A huge upgrade previously from EX1 Metal Greymon. The last oldie is Metal Greymon Alteros mode, the promo that allows you to digivolve from Metal Greymons. This is simply another form of inheritable protection that may guarantee you the swing into security. But the MVP of the level 5s goes to BT12 Metal Greymon, a Digimon that can digivolve from a level 4 Greymon for a cost of 3. It also has Raid, meaning you can attack with it and redirect it to a different Digimon. In some instances, you may have 10 or even 11,000 DP. But all turns, once per turn when a Digimon's attack target is switched, you may play 1 black or red Tamer card with a play cost of 4 or less without paying its memory cost. This can be huge, considering you have ways to play a black Taikamiya for free when you raid, and give your stack blocker and another plus 1000 DP. But this isn't limited to just Taikamiyas, as you could also utilize this with Marcus Damon, and even Yuya Kuga. But the deck wouldn't be Wargreymon without Wargreymon himself. 4 copies of the new Raid variant that when you Digivolve, this stack gains Reboot and plus 3000 DP through your opponent's turn. Effectively, with multiple layers of protection, this Digimon could reboot, have blocker, and with all turns inheritables from Greymon and Agumon, be a 17,000 DP blocker. For the remainder of my level 6s, I chose text that would be great for your other matchups. BT1 Wargreymon for the option card negation and ripping through multiple security if you're playing against security control. And a single Wargreymon X to utilize with Raid Wargreymon. Remember, if your opponent has an unsuspended Digimon out, you can attack into the player, redirect with Raid, and unsuspend. If you have Taikamiya or Cool Boy, you could Digivolve into Wargreymon X and check even more security, gain more memory, and end of attack, delete one of your opponent's Digimon. I'm still playing around with the ratios and determining what works best, as I test against more and more decks. While you do play Wargreymons, this deck does run the finisher, Blitz Omnimon. With Omnimon, you could also gain piercing from the new Metal Greymon, then you could sit with this Digimon with multiple layers of protection, and in some instances, reboot and have extra DP. Preliminary lists I looked over in Japan also ran the BT10 x-antibody variant, but I don't think that's necessary. Potentially, depending on how the meta shapes up, it could very well become a 1-1. But this is also dependent on x-antibody for that reduced cost. Option card wise, this deck is really tight on space. Because x-antibody isn't the main focus, I went with 2 copies for the time being, and a single copy of Hades Force. Not going to lie, deleting Tamers and Digimon with a play cost of 12 or less is huge in certain matchups. But this deck currently has very few ways to out Quartzmon, if not 2. Other considerations were Red Memory Boost, but at this point I am very happy with these 3 choices. And finally, Tamers in the form of 2 BT12 Taikamiya, 2 BT1 Taikamiya, and 2 Cool Boy. BT12 Taikamiya on play and start of your main phase gives one of your Digimon with Agumon or Greymon in its name plus 1000 DP and blocker. But the better part is when you Digivolve into a Digimon with Greymon or Omnimon in its name, you can suspend this Tamer to gain 1 memory. This is the defensive Tamer while also providing you some memory return. BT1 Taikamiya on the other hand is there to not only fix your memory to 3, but also give you that extra security check. In some games, I've ripped through 4 security after chipping damage with a rookie earlier, and then using Blitz Omnimon for game. It's that doable. But the last Tamer is our favorite, Cool Boy. While there aren't many x-antibody Digimon, the extra memory like Tai is good, but the extra card is better. Digging for those pieces and promoting out the perfect stack is really easy with this deck. Strength and weakness wise, this deck plays very linearly, on par with Grandis Kuwagamon decks. For my tests, I pitted this deck against Beelzemon post BT12, Grandis, Crossheart, and Blue Flare. Crossheart can be a massacre considering playing bodies is what makes the raid ability viable. Grandis is a coin toss, but ultimately whoever sets up the more efficient stack first is going to win. Defensively, Beelzemon has a lot of removal, but you also have lots of protection. I would argue at this point that the biggest weakness to this deck is turning off the raid. It doesn't make it as good if your opponent doesn't have that unsuspended Digimon in play. So do be careful when you play against this deck that you don't leave a body out that could give them not just 1 attack, but 2 that may rip through 5 security and then Blitz Omnimon regain. Although in playing against Blue Flare, Armor Purge does prevent piercing from happening, which can be another deterrent. Based on preliminary testing, this variant is a hyper-aggressive variant, but there are definitely weaknesses that this deck does not cover. De-digivolve could be one of the make or break instances that hurts your stack. An Ultimate Flare or even Shikurimon could ruin it. DP reduction is another element that this deck has little to no protection against. While your DP can reach astronomical levels, if reduced enough by say, Wyvern's Breath, you're done. The following build maximizes on security Greymons, and instead of Metal Greymon X from BT9, the BT11 variant is present for that protection from both these kinds of effects. However, you will need more of your Tamers out to guarantee that memory does not pass over. Raid Wargreymon is a powerhouse in the upcoming format, with this specific list again tailoring more towards an aggro player. What are your thoughts? And above all, will the support for this Digimon ever slow down or end? Finally, I would like to thank its BB Dudes for becoming the first patron of my second tier. You will forever be immortalized from this point on in future videos. Do consider checking out his content as well, as they are very funny, creative, and well edited. Once again, thank you sir for that added support. This is Digi-Panda, logging out.